Welcome back. You are live with us, WGU Live, at the SHRM 2019 Annual Conference. We are here at the Las Vegas Convention Center and are excited to have our third panel of the day. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We're glad to have you. And if you're returning and just interested in our panels again, we're very excited to have you back. For those of us first joining us, why are we here? We are at the SHRM Conference, the Society for Human Resource Management. And the WGU College of Business has a large presence here because of our programs in Bachelor of Science of Human Resources. And when we're looking at education and the future of work, this is all relevant. This is not just relevant to people in HR as a profession, nor students in an HR, going into an HR career. As professionals, as people in our society, we all have to work. And these topics that we're talking about today and that are relevant here at the SHRM conference are topics that we all deal with in the workplace. So right now we're going to be talking about the reinvention of yourself by furthering your education. And to talk about this topic today, we have Sunil that is joining us on this panel again, and Dr. Spencer Stewart. And I'd like you guys to introduce yourselves and tell the audience who you are and what you do and why you're here.
Sure. Sunil Ramlall, I'm a faculty. I teach core HR courses here at WGU. I've been teaching HR for the past 15 years or so, and I have my doctorate in HR from University of Minnesota. I publish widely in the field of HR and champion the transfer of knowledge from academia into practice and helping to prepare students to excel in their HR roles.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you again for being here.
Yes, absolutely.
Spencer, can we call you Spencer?
Oh, absolutely.
Wonderful.
I prefer that.
Good.
And my parents do too. So like any good panel, you have to balance it out. So we've got the specialist right here.
Right.
Sunil. I'm the generalist, if you will.
Good HR term. I've heard that thrown around in HR. A generalist versus a specialist,
that's
yes.
Right, that's right. So I'm the Chancellor here in Nevada for WGU. I've been in this role for about 4 years, and prior to transitioning to this role, I was with the Nevada System of Higher Education for about 15 years. And so I'm really pleased to kind of be in my backyard. I'm glad that the Las Vegas Convention Center can host this remarkable conference.
Absolutely.
From what I understand, Aaron, this is the largest human resources conference on planet Earth. Is that right?
Planet Earth.
Okay,
Absolutely.
planet Earth. Okay, all right.
And I think we heard that from SHRM President Johnny C. Taylor.
Yes.
So we could be confident
Right.
that is true.
Okay, good. We heard
Absolutely.
it. We heard it, so it must be true.
Absolutely.
We are among 18,200 others
Okay.
here this week.
And so a lot of people, especially our audience, probably knows who WGU is and what we do. But some of them may not know about WGU Nevada. Can you just give us a quick rundown of WGU Nevada and the states? So we have several states, about 8 states that are affiliates.
Absolutely. Yeah, so thanks for the question, Aaron. I don't know to what extent our audience today knows about WGU, but it really was created by state governors for their respective states. Over 20 years ago, a number of governors got together and said, hey, we need to think about higher education differently. They saw this tsunami on the horizon with all of these college-bound individuals, and the question was, how do we enhance or build capacity within our respective systems? And they could have gone one of two ways. One, they could have gone back to their respective states to say, hey, we need to think differently about our public system, or they could have, and this is what they did, they created their own private university. And what's so fascinating about this is here you have these governors of these states, these public agencies creating a private nonprofit entity to supplement, to complement what was already existing. And so about 8-9 years ago, one of the governors in Indiana, after the launch of Western Governors University, said, hey, I want there to be an 8th institution of higher ed within my respective state. We don't have the financial wherewithal to do that. What about a WGU Indiana?
Sure.
And that really caught hold. Other states started to follow. WGU Nevada was the 6th state affiliate. This happened in June of 2015 under the leadership of Governor Brian Sandoval. And the legislature creating this strong affiliation with WGU Nevada, and there have been other states to follow.
And so it's very interesting that individual states saw this, they recognized this model of providing affordable access to higher education, the delivery model of it being purely online, and recognizing the need that there are individuals, there are people in the workforce that needed education, needed higher education. They were trying to reinvent themselves, this idea of reinventing themselves through education. So as we get into this topic, and just to preview, this first question we're going to think about is, what role does education play in shifting one's strategy when trying to stay relevant in their career? And so let's think about these two words here, shifting one's strategy. I really like that. But in our topic, we talk about reinvention. And the actual definition of reinvent is to change something so much that it appears to be entirely new. To reinvent oneself actually has a definition in the dictionary as well. Take up a very different job or way of life. Interesting. And so I think about this reinvent and something to be entirely new. And I wonder if we need to reframe this message and talk more about a transformation, a journey. And let's just talk about this a little bit, because I think at WGU, we talk a lot about the past experience of an individual in their career and in their life, and how that helps them to transform themselves and in their future selves. So let's start there. What do you think about this word reinvention and how it plays in education?
That's a deep philosophical question, by the way.
Very deep. I'm glad you said that, Sunil. I'm like, wow, this is right out of the gate. Deep question.
So let's back up here a little bit. When we first talked about distance learning. The initial individuals who participated in the schools who offered distance education, you had to, the university would mail you some correspondence. You had to fill that out and mail that back in. Today, institutions such as WGU, we are making education accessible to thousands of individuals who would not have had access to education. Second, let's look at the way we as consumers make purchases. Historically, we've had to go to the store, and we talk about reinvention. And as we talk about reinvention of education, we also have to borrow from the reinvention of consumers. We would have to drive to the store, drive to Target, Walmart to make a purchase. Today, what do? We can go online. We use services Amazon, of course, Target online, Walmart online, everything, .com. And we can either get it same day or next day for minimal cost. Similarly, we as individuals, as employees in organizations, the competencies, the capabilities and knowledge that we had a couple decades ago would not necessarily be purely relevant today, because the dynamics of the whole economy, the global economy, has changed. And hence, if we do not reinvent, we do not change and build upon those capabilities that we had before and adapt to the market forces, we would become obsolete quite quickly as individual employees and as organizations also. Hence, your term about reinventing ourselves, reinventing our organizations, reinventing the nature of competition today. And we at WGU, of course, we're disrupting the old model of delivering education, again, making it accessible, making it affordable, and individuals can grow in their careers. So we're at the forefront here of reinventing education, higher education in the United States.
I liked what you said about building upon.
Yes.
Right, so that's taking into account the experience of the past, building upon your current skills, your past skills, and adapting to the changing needs of society and the workforce. It's very interesting.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I was going to have Spencer jump in and add into this.
Yeah, I was driving over here and I was thinking about some of the possible topics for our discussion, and one thing stood out to me. It's that reinvention has always been with us. So if we want to get deep philosophically, I think the self is something that's not static, right? We're always in the process of becoming. And I don't think that's a really new or novel concept, right? If we think back to the 40s, 50s, 60s, I think we as society always had that in the back of our minds. It's always about how we improve upon ourselves, hence education. But what I think has happened, Aaron and Sunil, I think you touched upon this, there's just been this great convergence of technological change. You know, we've talked about this era that we find ourselves in, and I can only imagine the era that my children are going to grow up in. It's going to be very, very different from the one that I grew up in. Kind of this fourth industrial revolution, this cognitive revolution, in the sense that today the nature of work is changing so quickly. So it's changing much more quickly than it did in the 40s, 50s, and 60s for all of these obvious reasons. And so it's figuring out how we reinvent ourselves at a quicker pace. And I think with that quicker pace, there's all sorts of psychological issues and behaviors that come up. I don't know about you, but you know, I feel paranoid half the time. Like, oh my word, I really have to improve myself. I have to reinvent myself. And I think that behooves all of us to think that way. And certainly as educators, how do we do a better job? What types of platforms and delivery models do we create so that the people that we're serving are able to reinvent themselves in a much more dynamic way within a shorter period of time?
Yeah, and so let's build upon that when you talk about we as educators, but then also with your experience here in in Nevada and seeing industries change. With your experience educating for 15 plus years and that relationship of education to workforce, what role does industry and education together play into remaining relevant so that individuals are not obsolete in such a rapid change of pace?
Right. And I think it always has to be a partnership with academia and industry. And you live that every day, Spencer, that we have to learn from, and that's the role of SHRM here also. They help to bridge that gap with academia and industry. We have to study what's happening in industry. Same with industry, understanding the research and be able to anticipate trends that might be coming our way. Our kids, they are leaps and bounds above us at our age with technology, even their cognitive ability, hands down. And so how are they going to be educated, and how are we adapting from a strategic perspective? Look, in the middle schools, students are using iPads. Back in our days, I'm not sure if we had that sort of advantage or privilege, right?
You didn't even know what the iPad was.
Correct.
It didn't exist.
My iPad was a yellow legal pad.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right, yeah.
I still have mine.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be revolutionary in our thinking and not become even remotely stagnant in how we deliver education, what we're teaching, and again, be able to benchmark from industry as far as what's working, what are the trends there, and how are we meeting those needs.
So there was a student of yours, Rich Frakes, I believe his name.
Yes.
And interestingly enough, he is a student of WGU currently, and he lives here in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And he was one of your students. Can you give us a little information about Rich, because his story fits into what we're talking about?
It fits perfectly. So Rich is a general manager of Desert Cab here in Las Vegas. Rich is coming back to school after many years as the competitive forces within the transportation industry in Nevada has been radically changing. Uber, Lyft have been eroding into his consumer base.
Right.
And so now here's a gentleman who has accomplished everything within his role, but cannot remain competitive if he does not stay abreast or ahead of Uber and Lyft. So WGU is now the scaffolding for him to develop new strategies, new ways of thinking, new business models, learning the technology needed, learning to manage the workforce for whom he has employed. And now WGU is providing him that foundation.
So he's transforming himself. He's keep with the term reinventing himself through education to help himself remain relevant, but also his company. So we have a video here from Rich. We were able to interview him prior to the SHRM conference, and he spoke about what he's doing individually to educate himself and how that translates to his industry and his role. And so we have some video that we're going to cut to right now and listen to what Rich's story can bring to this conversation about reinventing yourself with higher education.
My name is Rich Frakes. I'm in the College of Business at WGU, and I'm currently the general manager at Desert Cab Company, which is a taxi cab company in Las Vegas. So Uber and Lyft, which are TNCs, have affected the cab company tremendously. So our business has went down since 2015 when they entered the market here in Las Vegas, probably somewhere in the 40%. So our rides are down about 40%, which would mean our income's down about 40%. So they have significantly impacted us. I think it's kind of great that you have, when you're online, you can either read a textbook or you have a PowerPoint, you can call your advisor, you can call your mentor. It's just, there's so many different things you can do to make it easy to learn. I just took a HR class. In the HR class, I kind of learned a lot from that class, as it wasn't just telling guys what to do. I mean, I kind of knew, I know regulations about like EOC and all that, but it's just dealing with the drivers. It's like kind of how they coexist, right? Actually have a meeting every morning with these guys, and then kind of go over what's going on with each person. So it's like this organizational, like a huddle. We all get together, we figure out what happened the day before, and then we kind of figure out what's going on with today. I would suggest if you were in a competition the way that we are, if you do what you do best, you know what you do, and you're really good at it, you just keep doing what you're really good at. That's my best advice.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Rich, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and to Desert Cab locally here in Las Vegas. It's a very interesting story, and I think one that we know, actually, a story that resonates with a lot of people, with people that are here probably watching, our students at WGU, and a lot of people that are here at this conference as well. Everyone trying to figure out what are the forces that are driving change within our industries. How do we remain competitive as individuals within that rapid change and help to drive innovations forward in our companies so that our companies remain relevant along with ourselves. So Spencer, to start, tell me, with Rich's story, what he just told us, how do you think that his professional and academic journey would resonate with other WGU students?
Yeah, it's a good question. I love Rich's story. I think it's so emblematic of the collective stories that our students have, our graduates have. It got me thinking about the industries that will probably go through rapid transformation over the next 5, 10, 15 years. I remember a year or two ago, there was a think tank that came out with a study in terms of those industries that are most sensitive to automation. And we are here in Las Vegas, the hospitality capital of the world, and everyone thinks that hospitality is untouchable because it is so person to person. It's dependent upon that, but the result of this study suggested that hospitality, because of its repetitive nature in some areas, might be very prone to automation and displacement. I hate to say that D word, but displacement. And so everyone feels like this will not happen to me until it does happen. And I just want to paint a picture for your viewers, Aaron. As I look out, we're in this huge conference center. I don't even know how much square footage. I mean, it's got to be millions of feet, but you got business A, business B, so there are hundreds of businesses here, and as I look out, I see this commonality between what these businesses are trying to achieve and what we're trying to achieve. They're trying to get the best out of their people, their teams. And earlier today we had a keynote speaker by Brene Brown, and what stuck out to me is that she talks about this daring leadership. And we talk about the future of work, but here's the dirty little secret. We really don't know what this is going to look like. And so when it comes to leadership, I am so impressed by all of these businesses that are focusing on their people. And they're focusing on the unknown. They're not quite sure what the next 5, 10, 15 years are going to look like, but they're really investing in their people.
Right.
They truly are. Much like Rich and Desert Cab, the same is true with Lyft and Uber, where you have this industry where they fully know in 5, 10, 15 years they are going to have autonomous vehicles. What's interesting about Nevada is it's kind of the autonomous lab in the country. This is where companies come to test out all of their autonomous tech.
Right.
And these companies know that we've got to think about our workforce differently, such that I think at Lyft, I don't know about Uber, but they've created a pillar, a division where it's the future of work, and we're going to figure out how we upskill and train our people so that irrespective of what happens, they are prepared for that big unknown.
Right, and that's one of the things that's amazing about working, say, for a company like Uber or Lyft,
Right.
Or WGU, where these are organizations that are trying to be thoughtful about what's
Right.
happening in the future. For our students,
Right.
WGU students, for
And we want to be thoughtful with them, right? This
Exactly.
goes back to Sunil, your comment. What's
Right.
the relationship now between industry and academia? My word, it should be hand in glove, more
Yeah,
so than ever
exactly.
before.
Yeah. So, as we're thinking about markets changing, the nature of education changing, if we don't adapt, we could become obsolete. So, to wrap up our discussion here, in 20 to 30 seconds, starting with Sunil, what do we do? What are your thoughts on remaining relevant in the workplace and with the unknown of what the future of work will
Sure.
be?
Learning does not stop when we finish our formal education. It continues, and that's why organizations invest that much. We create organization capabilities. After all modes of competition, what's left? That's you and I, us here as the employees. So, well, how are we investing in ourselves, reinventing ourselves to remain relevant to organizations and future forces that will impact us?
Right.
It's an ongoing, continuous learning for all of us.
Continuous learning.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, and I will just piggyback off
Sure.
of that. You know, as I look back at the skill set that a newly minted graduate needed to be successful, I think there's been a shift. I think the core pretty much is going to be the same. You still need technical competence in your respective field, but I think the key ability, it's much more important today, is this ability, this competency to know how to learn. To know how to learn, and this is something that I think higher ed is focusing more on. It's certainly something that we're focusing on at WGU, because we realize that this one and done model of going to school is out the window. It's foolish to think that for 4 years I'm going to get everything I need for a career that is lasting longer and longer and longer. Just read a report that many people, many experts today predict that the rising generation is going to work until about 70, maybe even 72. So we're going to be working longer, and we're going to have more types of jobs. So what's going to separate those from the pack going to be those individuals that truly know how to learn and that can internalize that.
Wow. That's deep, and something that I think that we all need to do a better job of focusing on. And as we're here and we're talking about education, we're talking about the future of work, really take that to thought, what Sunil and Spencer are talking about, and bring that back around with what we've talked about from our keynote with Brene Brown and vulnerability, and that idea of uncertainty and risk. We don't know what those things are, but we can certainly be vulnerable and embrace that and think about our futures, think about our lifelong learning, and how do we continuously upskill ourselves. And that means opening ourselves up to the option that we don't know what's going to happen. So let's try and remain relevant based on being open to bettering ourselves, whether that be through education, whether that be through an employer program for education, and trying new things. So that's going to be it for this session. We thank you, Spencer and Sunil, again for being here. And coming up next at 5:30 Eastern will be the very highly anticipated virtual SHRM Virtual Student Chapter launch. That's at 5:30. That will be hosted on the WGU College of Business Facebook page. Everything else has been on the WGU Facebook page, so please join us on the WGU College of Business Facebook page. The link will be in the comments for that page. Tomorrow, we will have 3 more sessions live at SHRM Annual Conference. Don't miss those. We start with the general session at 1:15 p.m. Eastern. Then we will be breaking down the mental health stigmas at 2:15 Eastern Standard Time. And then the very anticipated medical marijuana in the workplace at 3:45 Eastern. So please join us for those sessions, and we will be right here at the WGU Facebook page for all of those tomorrow with more great guests, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you for being with WGU Live.